as a session for Ethereum. So last week we talked about two possible time point of Ethereum breakout, and coincidentally, Ethereum picked the earlier one. So we talked about one time point somewhere near the beginning of October, and another time point on September 23rd. So before those two time points breakout would happen, that's the thing that we talk about, and you see exactly right before this triangle formed between this dashed yellow line and the blue line, Ethereum broke out, and it broke towards the downside um, all the way through the purple key level of $4,000. Now it has kind of reclaimed the position yesterday and staying above the purple key level, but it seems like it's not going to hang in there for too long. So let's find out what are the indicators telling us and what are the price action showing us. Let's move back to the weekly chart. So we see this long candlestick that has fallen outside of this upward channel box, this blue box over here. So an uptrend that started back in April this year, right from the selling climax all the way back to the upthrust that we just had. So for the time being, for simplicity's sake, just focus on the blue text instead of the, I'm trying to clean up the chat from the previous session. Yeah, now it should be fine. So just focus on the blue text at the moment, because the yellow is another hypothesis that during July time it was only a PSY instead of a buying climax, but only time can tell when we get further down the line. It doesn't impact much as of this moment, because for both the blue and the yellow scenario, there still is a chance for the price to go to where another high that's higher than what we had back in mid-August. So it was the all-time high back in mid-August, but according to Wyckoff method, there's still chance, although it's getting slimmer now, that it can go even higher. So back to this point, while it's finding support at the purple key level of 4,000, you see the line poke through the support and then come back. We'll see more detailed actions in the daily chart. But from a macro perspective, we asked the question in the past few sessions. It seems like the price is trying to come down to the sign of weakness. So what's this level? This should be somewhere around or between the light blue key level of 3,200 and the blue key level of 3,540. That's where the automatic reaction was back in late July, when the price came down from the buying climax. So this is one of the key events that we are waiting to happen when the price is eventually coming down. And if we look at what happened over here back in December 2024, when the price came down from the upthrust, so that's where we're coming down from as well, it has a lot of like bounces. One bounce over here, one flatted bounce here, and the third bounce before it finally gets into the accumulation cycle. So this time we are only seeing the first bounce. So this is high enough, so I call it a second test. That one doesn't even reach halfway between the blue and the purple, so I consider that just a last point of supply. And looking at the volume, the selling volume is actually quite consistent over the past 5 weeks, except the one here where the bounce towards the second test. 1.2 million is the average, or has been the average for the 4 red weeks. So the selling force seems to be getting, I would say, more people are selling, maybe I should say it this way, because these two smaller candles, we can still say the bulls and the bears were fighting, but this week's candle and the candle back in late August, simply more people are selling than buying. And if we get to the daily chart, oh, actually before that, let's quickly check the Bollinger Band current squeeze. Currently, there's no squeeze going on, and when we get to the daily, it's more or less the case that the current bands are widened, so it may take another few days before an actual squeeze would happen for the daily chart as well. So that's not a worry for now after this breakout. So is there any other time point while the price has already reached this level? Um, so I'm trying to see whether there's a downtrend that's being developed. Currently, it's still very flat, so it's not easy to determine even if we try. We can try, there's no harm. If I draw a line right over here, trying to encapsulate the wicks of the candles, so that's probably where it should land. Just want to move these tags out so I can see clearly that the channel box is covering the candlesticks completely, including the wicks. So let's move this up. Yeah, it's pretty flat as of this moment, but this should have all the wicks covered. So this point hasn't touched the bottom edge, and that's totally fine. Just want to keep this on the current interval only. So if the downtrend continues, if I extend this further, there's currently not much of a time indication. There's one thing I can draw that may be steeper than the box itself, is this downtrend that started. So if I cut this down from the wicks of the candles, that's roughly it. If I turn it to yellow, dashed line, and make it just stay within the daily time frame. So this line is an indication of a potential bounce that would happen. That's around October 2nd, so before October 2nd, to put it this way. But that's only one further point down. Today we're actually at one earlier time point. So you see this crossing the purple key level is actually September 28th. So this candle that we're having today, right now, is the last spot where the price can trade within this triangle. So either today or tomorrow, this has to break out, meaning it has to bounce up outside of this yellow dashed line, meaning it found support from the purple key level, or it's going to break the purple key level like what happened yesterday and the day before, and come back down to challenge the bottom edge of the channel box, this line over here. And when that happens, it's got a few more trading days for the big guys to decide which direction we're going to head to, because this wedge over here pointing towards October 2nd, that's another time point, another breakout will happen. So very closely, in just 6 days, there are 2 time points that would allow Ethereum to break either a key level or resume like a rebound trend. So I shared in many sessions. Even here you can see that I talked about earlier. Within a channel box, the price basically bounced from one side, the ceiling, and then towards the bottom edge, and then it should bounce towards the ceiling again, but this time it didn't, and to the bottom edge until it falls outside of it. So in candlestick pattern analysis, this is a bear flag. This ascending box is a bear flag, and this is now what's happening. It's heading towards the downside. You can consider it's a bearish move. Just that after the flag, it doesn't tell like how hard it is to drop. It can pause right at where I have drawn this box, meaning it would rebound somewhere around 3,700 or 3,600, mid 3,600. It depends on when it happens, when it touches the bottom edge of the downward trend box that I've just drawn. But this is not a very solid box as of this moment, because we have only 1 point, 2 points, and 3 points as references. So when the price dip further or bounce at a higher level, we have to adjust the box to make sure the slope matches the price actions. But for now, today, tomorrow, it's already a time point that a breakout has to happen, because it's being cornered between this downward resistance line and the purple key level. The next cross is between this same yellow dashed line, but with the bottom edge of the downward channel box. So assuming if people are not panicking, if they don't do panic selling, what would happen is it may eventually break outside of this resistance line and then go back to challenge the purple and maybe bounce towards the top or the ceiling of the channel box, and eventually do similar bouncing actions all the way into the end of the year. However, if people do FOMO, that not FOMO, like panic sell basically, if they panic sell, then that's where it's going to dive very deep. We can look at what happened back in here. Initially, it was like pretty horizontal between the light blue and the blue key level, but once it got past that point, people start to panic and it dropped through the green key level all the way to the yellow key level before it bounces up and eventually dip all the way to the selling climax. So this time, if really people are panicking, it can poke through the blue or even the light blue all the way to the green before it do some sideways movement, or at least we're expecting it's kind of take a pause at 3,200, because that's where the sign of weakness should be, if it's the yellow scenario. Okay, so again, similar to Bitcoin, Ethereum is getting very interesting as well, because it has fallen outside of an upward trend that's started half a year ago. So would it be the end of a distribution cycle and it's going to head back to a new accumulation? It's a very interesting thing to observe. Hey Jim, how high can it go up this year? Hey Jim, sorry I mentioned your name wrong. Yeah, so a lot of people ask me this question. That's not something I do, unfortunately. Either like guessing the top and guessing the bottom, I don't do those, because I just ride the waves and look at what stages Wyckoff is at, and as long as it's still at the stage where it's going up, I don't care how high it's go. I just push my stop loss all the way until a retracement forced me to take profit. So another reason I don't do it is because if we're anchored towards a price point, say if I tell you the price is going to get to 5,000, but as of this moment I have no idea what new events would happen. I don't know what news would come out in the next half a year if I tell you the price is going to get to 5,000, and at a certain point in time down the road bad news happen, it shoots to the downside, then it never gets to 5,000, then obviously my speculation is wrong. Even if there's good news, I said 5,000, if it's very bullish news that push the price all the way to 6,000 or even 7,000, then again, that anchoring is not correct. So I never guess the top and the bottom. Yeah, people can say a lot of things, but if you go back to history and check all those people that said the price would go to a certain price point, just take a record of it and see for how many times they are correct, and for how many times they always have a reason after that price point they mentioned did not happen. So it's again a very interesting exercise. It definitely drives attention, but that's not the way that I trade, or I would suggest my community to do their trade. It's interesting to read those news. You can consider those opinions and pick out those factors or assumptions they use for a price to get to a certain point, but observe closely. Hey, Confidential 14, can we really base it off the past bull run? Because back then we didn't have big players like BlackRock, Michael Saylor buying Bitcoin, and Ethereum. Yeah, I agree with that guy. We have new players now. Yeah, well, I would say publicly telling people about buying a lot versus operating through private entities that we don't know is different, and it can happen, and it could have happened back in 2021 already. And again, big players going in doesn't mean they can't pull the money out. So look at the stock market. Why the stock market can go up and go down, right? A lot of institutions are in the stock market. So for crypto, it makes no difference. They can go in, they can pull the money out, and the price can still drop. It doesn't mean like when they get in, doesn't mean that they will be diamond hands as some of the smaller fishes like us, right? We can hold for however long we want. We don't need to report to anybody. But those institutions, especially the listed ones, they have to report the book to the public, to whatever securities or exchange they have registered to. So, and also they have ways to hedge even if the price drop. I won't take it so simple that if institutions are participating, it's equivalent to the price won't drop. So that's my take. Thanks for all the questions, and I like the participation. What do you think altcoin season will start when ETH breaks about 5k? Well, I didn't say it would break about 5k. That was just an example telling you I don't guess the top. So also, the terminology of altcoin season, I don't buy that as well. If you look at the altcoins just this month or the past 4 to 6 weeks, they pump and drop at different cycles. That's why for the coins I cover, I use the same methodology, and you can tell exactly what stages, what Wyckoff stages they are at, and they are all different. So it's not like all 100 altcoins are going through the same phase in the Wyckoff distribution cycle or accumulation cycle. Some of those are still in accumulation. They never pop up this year. So that's 5k was just an example. I was trying to tell you I don't guess the top. So I'm moving on to, yeah, thank you, Confidential 14. And I'm moving to Ripple next. See you over there. Thanks for joining. Cheers.